Hey, everybody. Rich Widmer with the Unbroken movement. Once again, I have an outstanding interview. Right, what you see now, Megan Badell. She is coming from the Georgia state, which I'm in New Jersey. I just love the ability to be able to talk to people all over the country. Megan is no different. Everybody knows the Unbroken movement at this point. I go through my trolling of social media and I came across Megan. Her name ID stopped me in my tracks. Megan, I got to tell you, beautiful from Brokenness. I mean, it says it all. I did not, normally something will stop me, whether it's pictures before and after or a medical condition or something, but the name just totally stopped me where I was intrigued to find out because of the fact this is the Unbroken movement. And I know whatever's unfolding with Megan, which she's going to share, is going to be able to inspire others. So as everyone knows, I mean, my course of action is I just send out the intro about the Unbroken movement because this is a movement I feel that's really going to pick up some steam and really inspire, and we're going to grow as an overall huge monster platform to let everybody inspire. But I'll send that intro and then let Megan respond to see if whatever she was going through want to inspire others. So Megan, tell us what you saw, what you felt, what inclined you to want to share and jump on this channel. Go.
All right. So when you did reach out to me and I watched your video, something that really kind of struck me was the fact that other people besides me go through different things and they persevere through, right? So really when you're going through something, it's a conscious decision to make that happen every day. And that's really what struck me. And that's really where I was when I created the beautiful From Brokenness Instagram page, trying to make it something for me to allow me to get through those times.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It wasn't really about, how is this going to affect others? It's really about how can I get through in the best way possible? So when I went through last year, I went through a divorce. It was one of my really broken times. I had to go back and reflect on what it was that I wanted in life, where I needed to be, whether that was, mentally, emotionally, physically, health and fitness wise. How can I get there? And how can I take my children, my two little boys, with me on that journey? And what's best for the three of us? So that's really where that beautiful From Brokenness started, because you start in a place of brokenness. You have to get down to where you are absolutely broken.
That if I could freeze you there, because that is a mouthful, and just to be able to unpack it a little bit, because I certainly relate to it in more ways than one. But just to ask a question, because obviously talking with you and seeing what you're posting now, you certainly seem, it could be an ongoing thing which you'll share, but you certainly do not seem broken from the standpoint. You seem in absolutely great spirits, just a great aura on what you're presenting. So I assume right now, we won't get into it, but you are in a good headspace. Is that safe to say? Okay. All right. So,
yeah.
So with that said, then let me just ask this, because, divorces, and again, having experience, that is never a good thing, especially with children involved. But did it start out? I just want to kind of unpack your mental state from getting married, having kids, and then to the point of divorce. Did it change from a mental health standpoint at that point? Kind of grab that, because again, if somebody's listening to this is where they want to say, man, I can relate to that. How did she get through it? That's the whole point, right? Take us there on that journey.
Absolutely. So it wasn't always like that. And I mean, from what I read, I don't think it's ever always like that. There was a point, I was labeled as infertile, and we went through infertility. And that's kind of where my passion lies. And it was unexplained infertility. So nobody could tell me why. And I'm very much into finding out the why. Like, if I can't find out the why, it really bothers me. So we went through that for about 5 years. And then I finally did get pregnant and I went through a miscarriage. And so from then, we did go through IVF. And when I did get pregnant with my first son, it was a twin pregnancy. We were in Florida at the time. I delivered during Hurricane Irma at 24 weeks, 5 days.
Boy,
Yes. And that is, and our son and daughter were born at 24 weeks, 5 days. 5 days later, our daughter passed away. And
my heart.
that's where it broke. Right. So going through all of that, and I don't know the percentage, but I don't think it's a very large percentage of parents that lose children, but it truly is one of the hardest things, that anybody would need to go through. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. However, it did bring me closer to God from a religious standpoint. It did make me focus on the fact that you have to live every day intentionally, right? You don't know how much you have left with that person, with that job, with that opportunity. And so you can't really take much for granted. But that's really where kind of that marriage broke, because we took two different avenues to get well, to heal. It's the only thing that I can think of that actually got me through those days was knowing that God woke me up on purpose. There's got to be another reason I'm here and I'm not gone, right? There's got to be a reason and I'm very big on like reasons and that why, there's got to be a reason why this happened and I need to figure that out. But I also think that he gave me my son at that same time to also have that reason to move through. It was easier. Not that it's easy to lose one. It's easier when you have one there and you can like focus your energies back on that. Like somebody still needs me kind of a situation. But that's the only thing that I can point to that got me through those days. And it was the same kind of thought process and mind process that got me through the darker days from the divorce as well.
That's incredible. So what did somebody bring you or family or anything regarding that your faith started to grow within, or was it just self-developed yourself? Like what spurred it?
I think it's always been there, right? So like I knew the steps about going to church. We went to church and things, but I never felt it. I didn't feel it. I didn't
Understand.
feel that happened, right? And so it's really where I use this phrase, it fell in, right? Because when you go through that brokenness, you like fall down, you fall apart. And so I kind of fell in that way. And that was the only place from my perspective that I could think about going, because everything else was man-made, if you will. And at least at that point in time, anything man-made, I didn't trust. It would potentially break. It couldn't get me to the place that I needed to be. But from a religion standpoint, that's something beyond man, something beyond the fact, something that I could trust would not break. And so that's how I kind of felt. So it would be more of that self, if you will, that it's there and you finally tap into something. And it's probably not the best reason. There was probably better reasons to, tap into that. But for me, I'm a bit stubborn. So sometimes I need large things to happen in order to get me to a place where I am better physically, mentally, or emotionally.
Wow. Okay. Powerful. So self within, which is absolutely amazing. The inspiration of your faith put you through. So, and in the same breath, your husband at the time did not go in that direction, or it went in a different.
It was a different direction. And it was more of instead of, from my perspective, of course, instead of facing it head on, it was an avoidance. But I don't feel like I can tell people how to grieve, because I really don't know how to grieve either. It's got to be, your own personal thing. And then that's where, and looking back now, like at the time, I didn't know that had broken that. But looking back now, I can clearly see that's where the break happened. And because of that, it just got larger. The divide got larger. And it got worse till it got to the point of last year where there was that divorce. And again, wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. But at a point in time, I needed to say what was right for me. I'm in this place that I'm still grieving. I'm still hurting from that loss. I'm not in a good place mentally, physically. I was huge, right? So I am not in this good place. How do I need to put my life back on track where I need it to be and to go where I want to go?
So that is, and again, this, I commend you. I mean, you just radiate a powerful woman. I mean, with determination to be able to, first of all, again, the sympathy and my heart bleeds for the loss is tremendous. And I can absolutely see how two people can be totally broken down from that and not being able to handle it. But the power on what you're describing, you basically describe, yourself, can't even get this out because it's just an amazing story, but your perseverance on being able to consistently get better, make that glass half full is amazing. So, and this was, when did really the turning point that you would say, in a healthy mind frame? Because you mentioned as far as weight as well. So mentally getting better, faith giving you strength. And then it was last year, the divorce, that you then even wanted to take it a click up to be able to improve it from a healthy standpoint. So that started, talk about that. That started last year?
It did. It started last year. I would say March of 22 was really that's when, I moved out. So it was that physical symbol, if you will, of release. Not sure if that's the right word. But that's when I also started going to the gym and kind of focusing. I needed a place where I could focus on me. And still to this day, it feels selfish to me to focus on me when I've got 2 little kids and I've got all these other responsibilities that I need to do. However, I can't show up well for them unless my cup is full. And so it's really been kind of a struggle for me to get into that mental health and that mindset. But going to the gym did allow me to kind of focus for the 2 hours that I'm there. And I laugh because when I tell people, they're like, oh my God, you spend 2 hours at the gym? I'm like, yeah, I think I need to spend some more time there. But yeah, but that time really allowed me to focus. And so and it allowed me to kind of unpack mentally some of the things that I was going through and where I wanted my life to be, where I wanted my boys to be. Mentioned that my son was a 24-weeker. With that goes a lot of things, and it also goes that unknown, because they might be okay as a baby, but you don't know from a developmental standpoint. And it's the same with all children, right? You don't know from a developmental standpoint where they're going to end up being. However, I'm a little bit hypersensitive with him just because I know what he's been through. So we're currently at the phase of chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese, right? So I'm like, we need to introduce more food, more sustainable food. What are things that I wish that I had been introduced to when I was younger that I knew about, and let me just, go through this journey with them. Let's talk about fitness with them. Let's talk about how to be healthy. Do you have, and make it fun. Like every once in a while, we're always sharing our muscles with each other.
That is awesome. I'm speechless. I love it. I mean, listen, it's a family affair. And what you're doing is absolutely unbelievable. I told you, it's just, you are just such a strong woman. I commend you. Yeah, you certainly have my respect on how you handled yourself. And I'm going to say one thing, and you said the word selfish a number of times, which I'm not going to say that it was selfish by any means. And I always give the airplane kind of example, and I'm sure you've flown before, and it's that airplane where they say when you're with a small child, how are you handling the oxygen masks? You're putting it on yourself first before you put it on the child. And that reigns true because, although we're parents, again, I'm a father of 3. I would give the shirt off my back, and I have. It's freezing. my daughter. I'll tell you a funny story. My daughter never, ever, ever wants to bring a jacket anywhere, ever. Well, now her father is like, I bring spare jackets and all the above because she'll be freezing. Dad, I'm not cold. I'm not cold. I'm not cold. Well, prior to learning my lessons, you're going to be cold. You're going to be cold. No, I'm not cold. I go out, we're going to a baseball game or whatever it may be. Dad, I'm freezing. How many times I got to give her my jacket? I'm freezing. And there she is, toasty warm. So, yeah, and we give our jackets, we give our clothes, we do everything for our children first. But in reality, if we don't feel good about ourselves, if we can't look at ourselves and give thumbs up, right? Give that selfie with the fish face. No, I don't know. Yeah. Just if you're not feeling good about yourself, you cannot be the best version and influence and taking care of that child regardless. It's just, it doesn't happen. So you are not selfish from when you and what you experienced. You improved yourself. I see the path of being the best version of yourself. So your kids are in absolutely good hands. That's for sure. So I commend you on that. So with that said, is there anything else, like looking back, if you had the chance to give yourself an opinion early on to catch that pain, to ease that pain, or to any others out there, what would you share? What would you say? What advice can you give?
I mean, I would say looking back now from where I've been, that you really have to embody the unbrokenness, if you will. You have to accept it, acknowledge it, and you have to actually be that so you can move forward through the brokenness to be whole. I am Megan Badell, and I am Unbrokenness.
Awesome.